Welcome back to the Nerdwork Nexus, the show where we dissect the coolest tech out there. And today, we're talking about something pretty amazing.
I'm ready when you are.
Perovskite solar cells.
Perovskite solar cells? That's a mouthful.
It is, but trust me, this tech is worth knowing about.
Okay, I'm all ears. What makes them so special?
Well, imagine a future where your house is powered by solar panels that are so thin and flexible, you can put them practically anywhere.
Really? So like windows, walls, maybe even your clothes.
Exactly. That's the kind of potential we're talking about here.
Wow, that's a game changer.
It really could be. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down the basics. What exactly are these perovskite solar cells?
So the name perovskite comes from a type of mineral with this unique crystal structure.
Does it have something to do with how diamonds get their sparkle?
Yeah, kind of. The way atoms are arranged in a material gives it its unique properties. And in perovskites, this structure makes them incredibly good at absorbing sunlight and converting it into electricity.
So these perovskites are like natural-born energy converters. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Think of it like this. When sunlight hits a perovskite solar cell, it energizes the electrons in the material, sending them into a frenzy of activity.
Okay, so we have all these energized electrons bouncing around. How do we actually get electricity from that?
Well, those energized electrons need a pathway to flow, a kind of electrical circuit. And that's where the other components of the solar cell come in. They create this pathway, allowing those electrons to flow and generate an electrical current.
I see. So it's like the perovskite material provides the energy, and the other components guide that energy to create electricity.
That's a great way to put it.
Awesome. Okay, so now we know what perovskite solar cells are and how they work. But how do they stack up against the traditional solar panels we see everywhere? Are they better?
That's a good question. Most solar panels today are made from crystalline silicon, which has been the standard for a long time. But silicon has its limitations.
Like what?
Well, for one, manufacturing silicon solar panels requires a lot of energy and high temperatures. That makes them expensive.
So they have a big environmental impact even before they start generating clean energy.
Exactly. Perovskites, on the other hand, can be manufactured at much lower temperatures. That means lower energy consumption and potentially lower costs.
Okay, so that's 1 point for perovskites. What else?
Remember that unique crystal structure we talked about? Well, that also allows perovskites to be incredibly versatile. We can make them into thin, flexible films.
Hold on. Flexible solar panel.
You got it. And that opens up so many possibilities. Imagine integrating solar panels into windows, curved surfaces, even fabrics.
Wow, solar-powered clothes. Now we're talking.
The potential applications are mind-boggling.
But how do perovskites compare to other thin film technologies out there? I know there are others, like cadmium telluride.
You're right, there are other contenders. But perovskites are quickly catching up. They have a higher theoretical efficiency, meaning they can potentially convert more sunlight into electricity. And as I mentioned, the manufacturing process is potentially less energy intensive and cheaper.
So perovskites are cheaper, more adaptable, and potentially even more efficient than traditional solar panels. This sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, there is a catch. Like with any new technology, perovskites have their challenges.
Uh-oh, I knew there had to be a downside.
One of the biggest hurdles is stability. Perovskite materials are a bit sensitive to things like moisture and oxygen. They can degrade over time, which affects their efficiency.
So they're like that friend who wilts in the summer heat. They need a little extra care.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Figuring out how to make these perovskite solar cells more durable and long-lasting is a top priority for researchers.
That's not just about efficiency. It's about making sure those solar cells can stand up to the real world. Sounds like a pretty big challenge.
It is. Those perovskite materials, they're a little sensitive to the elements, like a delicate flower.
What's the game plan to make them more durable in the real world?
Well, researchers are exploring a few different approaches. One promising strategy is encapsulation.
Encapsulation, so like protecting them from the outside world.
Yeah, think of it as creating a protective barrier around the perovskite material, shielding it from moisture and oxygen, basically giving them their own personal suit of armor.
I like that analogy. A suit of armor for solar cells. What are they using for this armor?
They're experimenting with various materials. Polymers are popular because they're flexible and easy to work with.
Okay, polymers make sense. Anything else?
Metal oxides are another option. They're really good at resisting moisture and oxygen.
So kind of like a fortress for the perovskites?
Exactly. And there's even research into using super thin layers of materials like graphene.
Graphene, that wonder material that's just one atom thick.
The one and only. It could provide amazing protection while still letting sunlight through.
Wow, that's impressive. So they're really pulling out all the stops to protect these perovskite materials.
Absolutely. Encapsulation is crucial for making perovskite solar cells commercially viable.
But it's not the only approach, right?
Nope, not at all. Scientists are also working on modifying the perovskite materials themselves, making them inherently more resistant to degradation.
So instead of just shielding them, they're trying to make them stronger from within.
Exactly. It's like giving those perovskite materials their own internal defense system.
How are they doing that?
It involves some pretty clever chemistry. They're tweaking the chemical composition of the perovskites, experimenting with different crystal structures, and even adding protective molecules that act as scavengers.
Scavengers.
Yeah, these molecules basically mop up any harmful substances that could cause damage to the material.
Fascinating. It's like a microscopic cleanup crew for the perovskite cells.
Exactly. They're attacking the stability problem from all angles, both protecting the material and strengthening it.
And are these efforts actually paying off for the perovskite cells getting tougher?
Definitely.
Neat.
In recent years, researchers have made big strides in improving the stability of perovskite solar cells.
That's good to hear. How much progress are we talking about?
Some perovskite cells are now lasting over 1,000 hours under continuous illumination, even in humid environments.
1,000 hours, that's over 40 days straight.
It is. And these advancements are really encouraging.
So we're heading in the right direction. But how long do they need to last to be competitive with traditional solar panels?
Well, for perovskites to truly compete with silicon, they need to achieve even greater stability, ideally operating for decades with minimal performance loss.
Decades. That's a long time.
It is, but that's the gold standard in the solar industry.
Okay, so there's still work to be done. But we talked earlier about how perovskite solar cells could revolutionize the way we use energy.
Yeah.
It's not just about sticking solar panels on rooftops anymore, right?
Right. The versatility of perovskites opens up a whole world of possibilities. We could integrate them into windows, building facades, even vehicles and clothing.
It's like turning our whole environment into a power source.
Exactly. And the economic implications are huge too. Perovskites could make solar energy more accessible to everyone.
Especially with those lower manufacturing costs we talked about. This could be a game changer for developing countries, remote communities, anyone looking to cut down their energy bills.
I completely agree. Perovskite solar cells could democratize access to clean energy.
This all sounds incredible, but are there any concerns about perovskite technology?
There are a few things to consider. One concern that often comes up is the use of lead in some perovskite materials.
Isn't that toxic?
It is, and that's why researchers are actively working on developing lead-free perovskite materials.
So they're aware of the issue and trying to find safer alternatives.
Exactly. Sustainability is crucial for any new technology, and perovskite solar cells are no exception.
That's good to know. It's important to find clean energy solutions that don't harm the environment.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears a bit, there's another fascinating aspect of perovskite technology we need to talk about. Hot carrier solar cells.
That sounds intriguing.
It is, but to understand what makes them so special, we need to first look at how traditional solar cells work and where they fall short.
Okay, let's do that. I'm ready to learn more.
Great. It all comes down to something called the Shockley-Queisser limit.
What's that?
It's a fundamental limit on how efficient a traditional solar cell can be. It all boils down to how these cells handle energy.
So no matter how advanced our solar panels get, there's a limit on how much sunlight they can convert into electricity.
Exactly, and that's where hot carrier solar cells come in. They have the potential to bypass this limit.
Shockley-Queisser limit.
Right, that's the key to understanding the potential of hot carrier solar cells. It's a fundamental limit on the efficiency of traditional solar cells.
Okay, remind me again. Why is there this limit?
Think of sunlight hitting a solar panel like a bunch of bouncy balls being thrown at a wall.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Some bounce off with lots of energy, some with less, and some lose almost all their energy on impact. In a traditional solar cell, the energy that isn't converted into electricity is lost as heat.
So it's kind of like wasted energy.
Yeah, you could say that. And the Shockley-Queisser limit calculates the maximum amount of sunlight that can be converted into electricity based on the material and how it interacts with light.
So there's this inherent ceiling on how efficient solar panels can be.
Exactly. But that's where hot carrier solar cells come in. They have the potential to bypass this limit.
How is that even possible?
It's all about how they handle those hot carriers, those highly energized electrons we talked about earlier.
Right, the ones that get all excited when sunlight hits the perovskite.
Exactly. In traditional solar cells, these hot carriers have time to cool down and lose their energy as heat before they can be used. But in hot carrier solar cells, the goal is to extract those hot carriers super fast before they lose their energy.
So it's a race against time. Capture those hot carriers before they cool down.
You got it. Researchers are exploring different ways to do this. One approach is using special materials that can extract the hot carriers super efficiently. Another strategy involves manipulating the energy levels within the perovskite material itself.
Wow, it sounds incredibly complex. Are there actually any working hot carrier solar cells out there, or is this all just theoretical?
It's mostly still in the research phase, but there have been some promising breakthroughs. Scientists have already demonstrated the extraction of hot carriers and perovskite materials and even shown that it's possible to convert some of that extra energy into electricity.
So it's not just science fiction, it could actually become a reality.
Definitely a possibility, although there are still challenges to overcome. Finding the right materials and making the whole process stable and scalable for mass production are big hurdles.
Makes sense. Big challenges, but big potential rewards too. If hot carrier solar cells could bypass the Shockley-Queisser limit, how much more efficient could they be?
The theoretical efficiency limits are much higher than for traditional solar cells. Some estimates suggest they could reach over 60% efficiency.
Almost double the efficiency of today's solar panels. That would be a game changer.
Absolutely. But even if hot carrier solar cells are still a ways off, perovskite technology itself is already pretty impressive.
Right, even without those hot carriers, they offer a lot of advantages. They're cheaper, more versatile, and already achieving high efficiencies. And with the potential applications we talked about, from solar windows to wearable solar tech, it's a really exciting time to be following this field.
I couldn't agree more. Perovskite solar cell technology is evolving rapidly, and its potential to change how we generate and use energy is huge.
Well, folks, there you have it. A deep dive into the fascinating world of perovskite solar cells. We've covered everything from their unique structure to their potential to break efficiency limits with hot carrier technology. Hopefully you've learned something new today. Be sure to check out our show notes for more information and join the conversation on our website and social media. We want to hear your thoughts on the future of perovskite solar technology. Until next time, keep those nerd circuits firing.